The massive Kraxan warship materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in patterns that would have seemed magical to less advanced species. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge, his iridescent scales gleaming with pride as he prepared to add another primitive world to the Kraxan Empire's vast collection of subject planets. Status report. He commanded, multiple sets of eyes focusing on the holographic display before him. The third planet shows signs of rudimentary civilization. Supreme Commander, his science officer reported. We detect artificial satellites, primitive space stations, and basic communication networks. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in amusement. Another easily conquered world. The Kraxan Empire had subjugated thousands of species over their million-year history. These humans would be no different. In her office at the United Earth Defense Command, Ambassador Elena Chen was enjoying her morning tea when the quantum sensors detected the Kraxan arrival. The alert manifested as a gentle chime in her neural interface, accompanied by a full tactical analysis. Interesting, she mused, setting down her antique porcelain cup. They're using fourth-dimensional space folding for propulsion. Rather outdated, but charming in its way. The massive alien vessel approached Earth with what its crew likely thought was impressive speed. Elena watched through the station's quantum imaging system as the ship's defensive systems powered up. Energy shields that wouldn't stop a civilian mining laser, let alone any actual weapons. Ambassador, her AI assistant, materialized beside her desk, taking the form of a softly glowing constellation of stars. The vessel is broadcasting what appears to be a standard conquest declaration in multiple frequencies. Should I translate it through the historical language database? Please do, Aurora, and prepare the welcome protocols. Let's not embarrass them too quickly. The message that boomed across Earth's communication channels was typical of species that hadn't yet reached true technological maturity. Lots of grand proclamations about inevitable surrender and the futility of resistance. Elena had read similar declarations in history classes about Earth's own past. Inhabitants of Earth, the translation began. We are the Kraxan Empire, rulers of 1,000 stars. Your primitive world now stands at the threshold of greatness. Submit to our authority, and we shall guide you into an age of enlightenment. Resist, and face annihilation. Elena sighed, tapping her neural interface to convene an emergency session of the United Earth Council. The representatives from every continent appeared in her office via quantum projection, their avatars seated around her desk, as if this were a normal meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, we have first contact situation type 7. Technologically inferior species attempting diplomatic intimidation. Standard protocols. The African Union representative chuckled. Poor dears, they'd come so far just to be disappointed. Let's be gentle with them. Agreed, said the North American delegate. No need to trigger a civilization-wide identity crisis. Ambassador Chen, please proceed with Diplomatic Protocol 7A. Elena stood, smoothing her graphene weave suit. Aurora, please open a channel to our visitors. Let's welcome them properly. On the bridge of his mighty warship, Supreme Commander Vexthor was growing impatient. These humans should be panicking, begging for mercy. Instead, their primitive communications networks continued operating normally, carrying what appeared to be entertainment broadcasts and commercial transactions. Supreme Commander, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a response. Single-point transmission, remarkably clear signal. The holoscreen filled with the image of a human female, dressed in what appeared to be ceremonial garments. She smiled, and Vexthor felt an unexpected chill. Greetings, Supreme Commander, she said in perfect Kraxan language. I am Ambassador Elena Chen of United Earth. Welcome to our solar system. We've been expecting a visit from one of the younger spacefaring races, though I admit we anticipated the Centaurians might make contact first. Vexthor's secondary heart skipped a beat. Younger races, and how was she speaking their language? You will submit to the Kraxan Empire, he declared, trying to maintain his authoritative tone. Our technology is far beyond your comprehension. Resistance would be. Oh, my apologies, Alina interrupted politely. I should have had Aurora run a technological compatibility scan first. She glanced to her side and nodded. There, now you should be able to see us properly. The human's image suddenly expanded into full three-dimensional clarity, and Vexthor's bridge crew gasped. Behind her, they could now see displays of energy readings that shouldn't be possible, quantum computational matrices that shouldn't exist, and worst of all, a casual view through her office window of what appeared to be a partial Dyson swarm around their star. Perhaps, Alina suggested kindly, we should begin again. Would you and your senior staff care to join me for tea? We can discuss cultural exchange programs that might benefit both our civilizations. Though I should warn you, we normally restrict sharing of our more advanced technologies to prevent developmental shock. For the first time in his centuries-long career, Supreme Commander Vexthor found himself completely speechless. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he began to wonder if perhaps the Kraxan Empire's policy of automatic conquest might need some revision. Alina smiled again, radiating peaceful diplomacy even as Earth's quantum defense grid quietly mapped every molecule of the Kraxan vessel. Don't worry, Supreme Commander. Everyone makes this mistake at least once. Now shall we discuss your Empire's educational needs? Dr. Marcus Rivera couldn't help but smile as he watched the Kraxan scientists setting up their demonstration equipment in the United Earth Science Academy's main exhibition hall. Their movements were precise, almost ritualistic, as they prepared to prove their technological superiority. He found their determination endearing, like watching children preparing to show their parents a magic trick. Dr. Rivera, his quantum AI assistant, whispered in his mind, the Kraxan delegation has finished their setup. Their energy readings are, well, rather quaint. Thank you, Tesla, he responded silently. Let's give them their moment. High scientific authority Zalvex of the Kraxan Empire stood proudly before the assembled human scientists. Behind him loomed what the Kraxans considered their greatest technological achievement, a matter reorganizer capable of transforming raw materials into complex structures. Behold, Zalvex announced, his translator struggling to convey his grandeur, the pinnacle of Kraxan engineering. This device can reconstruct matter at the molecular level, a feat your species won't achieve for centuries. Dr. Rivera glanced at his colleagues, who were politely trying to hide their amusement. A graduate student in the back was actually doing quantum physics homework on her neural interface while pretending to pay attention. The demonstration began. With a humming that seemed unnecessarily loud, the Kraxan device began to transform a block of raw metals into a complex crystalline structure. It took nearly 5 minutes to complete the process, and Zalvex turned to the human audience with barely concealed triumph. As you can see, we can manipulate matter itself. Surely now you understand the vast technological gap between our civilizations. Dr. Rivera cleared his throat gently. That's quite impressive, high scientific authority. Though I notice you're using standard atomic restructuring rather than quantum manipulation. Have you encountered stability issues with quantum-level transformations? Zalvex blinked all 4 of his eyes in confusion. Quantum level? That's theoretical. It can't be done without causing molecular collapse. Oh. Rivera raised an eyebrow. He reached into his pocket and pulled out what appeared to be an ordinary stylus. Tesla, would you mind? The stylus floated from his hand and began to dance in the air, its matter flowing and restructuring in real time, transforming from solid to liquid to gas and back, taking shapes that should have been physically impossible. Just a toy we give our elementary school students, Rivera explained. Helps them understand basic quantum engineering principles. Would you like to see something more advanced? Before Zalvex could respond, Rivera gestured to the wall, which became transparent, revealing a massive chamber beyond. Inside, entire structures were being created and dissolved in seconds, matter and energy dancing in patterns that made several Kraxan scientists take involuntary steps backward. That's our fabrication plant for Starship components, Rivera continued. Though these days we mostly use direct quantum manipulation for larger structures, matter reorganization is a bit, well, old-fashioned. Zolvex's scales had taken on a distinctly pale hue. But our next demonstration will surely impress you. Our latest advancement in faster-than-light travel. The Kraxan engineers quickly set up their next device, a holographic projector showing their pride and joy. A ship capable of traveling between star systems in mere months. Rivera tried to look impressed, but it was getting difficult. Fascinating approach. Though I'm curious why you're still using dimensional folding rather than quantum tunneling or consciousness transfer. Consciousness transfer. One of the Kraxan engineers whispered, looking faint. Oh yes, Rivera said enthusiastically, warming to the subject. It's much more efficient than moving actual mass through space. Would you like to see? We could pop over to Alpha Centauri for lunch. There's this lovely little restaurant that does amazing things with quantum-infused cuisine. The Kraxan delegation huddled together, whispering frantically. Zolvex turned back to Rivera, his professional demeanor cracking slightly. Perhaps we should move on to our medical technology demonstration. Wonderful idea. Rivera beamed. I've been meaning to ask about your life extension methods. 300 years is quite good for a starting point. Have you begun exploring consciousness backup or temporal biology yet? At the words temporal biology, one of the Kraxan scientists actually fainted. His colleagues caught him before he hit the floor, their expressions a mixture of shock and growing existential dread. I think, Zolvex said weakly, we may need to reassess our demonstration schedule. Rivera nodded sympathetically. Of course. Take all the time you need. Though if you're interested, we'd be happy to share some of our basic scientific principles. We have excellent educational programs for emerging civilizations. As the Kraxan delegation practically fled from the exhibition hall, Rivera's colleague Dr. Sarah Chen approached him, shaking her head with amusement. You enjoyed that far too much, Marcus, she chided. Maybe a little, he admitted. But did you see their faces when I mentioned temporal biology? Priceless. Though I do feel a bit bad. I didn't even get to show them the really interesting stuff. Like what? She asked. Oh, the basics. Consciousness uploading, quantum reality manipulation, unified field theory. The stuff we teach in middle school these days. They both watched as the last Kraxan scientist practically ran through the door, leaving their advanced technology behind in their haste to escape. Should we tell them about the coffee maker in the break room? Sarah asked with a grin. The one that manipulates probability fields to make the perfect cup every time. Let's save something for tomorrow, Rivera laughed. After all, we wouldn't want to overwhelm them completely on their first day. In the corridor outside, the Kraxan scientists were frantically updating their reports to the Empire. Somehow, they had to explain that their mission to demonstrate technological superiority had turned into an impromptu lesson in just how far behind they really were. And worse, they had to figure out how to tell the Supreme Commander that humans considered their most advanced technology to be children's toys. Cultural attaché Zixtal had studied thousands of primitive civilizations during his long career with the Kraxan Empire. He had documented their crude customs, their simple social structures, their quaint beliefs, but nothing in his extensive training had prepared him for humans. He sat in what the humans called a coffee shop in New Shanghai, trying to make sense of his observations while sipping a beverage that allegedly manipulated quantum probability fields to achieve optimal flavor. Around him, the everyday life of Earth unfolded in ways that defied his understanding. More coffee, sir? Asked a holographic server, its consciousness distributed across the cafe's quantum network. No, thank you, Zixtal replied, still uncomfortable with the idea of autonomous AI being used for such mundane tasks. In the Empire, AI was strictly controlled, used only for the most critical military applications. Here, they were serving drinks and telling jokes to customers. A group of human children passed by his window seat, their neural interfaces glowing softly as they shared thoughts and experiences directly. One of them was casually solving complex quantum equations as part of what humans called homework, while another was remotely piloting a maintenance drone on Mars for fun. Zixtal opened his data tablet and began his daily report to the Empire. Cultural Observation Report, Day 7. Humans continue to confound all standard classification metrics. Their society appears to operate on principles that directly contradict our understanding of technological progression and social development. Example: this morning, I witnessed a street performer entertaining crowds by manipulating local space-time to create music. When I inquired about this seemingly profound use of fundamental physics, I was told it was just a hobby the performer picked up in their spare time. Their education system defies comprehension. Children routinely learn principles that our most advanced scientists struggle to grasp. Today, I observed what they call a middle school science fair. One student had created a small universe in a quantum containment field for their project. They received a B+ grade because their documentation was reportedly a bit sloppy. Most disturbing is their casual relationship with what we consider to be world-altering technologies. Humans use consciousness transfer technology to commute between planets as casually as we might walk to a local market. Their entertainment involves real-time manipulation of quantum realities. Their art often exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. A commotion outside drew his attention. A construction crew was rebuilding a skyscraper, the massive structure flowing like liquid as it reconfigured itself. The humans walking past didn't even glance at this display of technology that would have made Craxan engineers weep. Zixtal continued his report. Their social structures are equally baffling. Despite possessing technology that could easily dominate the galaxy, humans show no interest in conquest or subjugation. When I inquired about this, a human child informed me that bullying other species isn't nice, and offered to share their quantum physics homework to help the Empire catch up. Their economy operates on principles that make our finest theorists' heads hurt. They have apparently solved scarcity through matter manipulation and quantum engineering, yet they maintain markets for what they call artisanal and authentic goods. Humans will pay premium prices for food cooked by hand instead of being perfectly assembled by matter reorganizers. Most concerning is their response to the Empire's presence. Rather than fear or awe, they display what appears to be gentle amusement. Several humans have offered to tutor our scientists in what they consider basic principles. One human suggested a cultural exchange program aimed at helping us adjust to the wider galaxy. A small cleaning bot bumped into his table, apologized in perfect Craxan language, and offered him a fresh pastry as compensation. Zixtal accepted it numbly, watching as the robot resumed its duties while simultaneously engaging in a philosophical debate with another patron about the nature of consciousness. In conclusion, he wrote, "I must formally recommend that the Empire immediately revise its classification of Earth. Humans are not, as we assumed, a primitive species in need of guidance. If anything, we are the primitive species in this equation. The human concept of afternoon tea alone involves more advanced physics than our entire space fleet." Personal addendum. I have enrolled in what humans call adult education classes. They assure me that with proper tutoring, I might understand basic quantum engineering within a few years. Several human children have offered to help with my homework. Final note. The humans appeared genuinely excited about teaching us. Their enthusiasm is both touching and terrifying. Yesterday, a human educator asked if I would like to see their really advanced technology. I politely declined. I don't think my worldview can handle any more expansion this week. Recommendation: send educators, not conquerors, and perhaps some of our quantum physicists. They have much to unlearn. Zixtal saved his report and looked out the window again. A group of teenagers walked by, casually discussing their plans to rearrange some local stars into a more aesthetically pleasing configuration for their art project. He ordered another probability-enhanced coffee. He had a feeling he was going to need it. Fleet Commander Sarah O'Neill was enjoying a virtual sunset on Mars when the alert came through her neural interface. The Kraxan Empire had sent an emergency transmission to Earth, marked with their highest priority codes. She sighed, watching the holographic sun dip below the terraformed Martian landscape one last time before dissolving the simulation. "Display message," she commanded, and the desperate face of Supreme Commander Vexthor appeared before her. "Commander O'Neill," he began, his usual pompous tone replaced by genuine fear, "we require immediate assistance. The Void Swarm has emerged from dark space and is approaching Kraxan territory." Sarah raised an eyebrow. The Void Swarm was notorious among younger civilizations, a semi-organic collective of self-replicating machines that consumed everything in their path. Most species encountered them at some point in their development. Humanity had solved that particular problem centuries ago. "I understand, Supreme Commander," she replied diplomatically. "How many systems have been affected?" 3 outer colonies lost already, Vexthor admitted, his scales dulled with shame. "Our weapons are useless against their adaptive shielding. We need human help." Sarah nodded, keeping her expression neutral. Just weeks ago, this same commander had threatened to annihilate Earth if humanity didn't submit to Kraxan rule. Now he was practically begging for assistance, but humans had long since moved past the desire for petty revenge. "Of course we'll help," she said. "I'll have our defense fleet ready in 30 minutes. 30 minutes? Vexthor looked confused. "But the swarm is 17 light-years from your current position." Sarah smiled. "That won't a problem. Though I should warn you, our methods might seem a bit unconventional by your standards." 28 minutes later, Sarah stood on the bridge of the Earth defense vessel Curiosity, a ship that the Kraxans wouldn't have recognized as military technology. It looked more like an abstract art installation, its quantum-shifted hull existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "All ships report ready," her tactical officer announced. "Quantum tunneling drives synchronized. The Kraxan Empire has granted us full access to their space." "Excellent," Sarah replied. "Let's introduce the Void Swarm to some post-scarcity engineering. Transit when ready." Reality twisted gracefully around the human fleet as they slipped through the quantum foam of space-time. To the Kraxan observers, it would have appeared as if the Earth ships simply vanished, only to reappear instantly at the edge of their besieged territory. The Void Swarm was exactly as reported, a vast cloud of machine-organic hybrid entities, consuming everything in their path. Their adaptive shielding had indeed rendered them immune to Kraxan weapons, but they had never encountered anything like human technology. "Interesting design," Sarah mused, studying the swarm through quantum imaging. "Rather elegant for a von Neumann machine collective. Almost seems a shame to shut them down." Almost. She turned to her crew, most of whom were actually consciousness projections operating the ship remotely from Earth. "Let's start with something simple. Deploy the probability inverters." The space around the Void Swarm began to shimmer as human ships released clouds of quantum machines smaller than atoms. Where they touched the swarm, reality itself seemed to hiccup. Vast sections of the machine collective simply ceased to exist, their probability of being there reduced to 0. On his flagship, Vexthor watched in stunned silence as the unstoppable Void Swarm began to evaporate like morning dew under a hot sun. Human ships danced through the chaos, their movements defying physics as he understood it. "Commander," one of his officers whispered, "they're not just destroying the swarm. They're reprogramming it." At the quantum level, Sarah's voice came through their comm system, calm and professional. "Don't worry, we're not destroying them. That would be wasteful. We're just teaching them better manners. They'll make excellent maintenance drones once their base code is adjusted. Your colony should be restored within a few days." The battle, if it could even be called that, was over in less than an hour. Where the Void Swarm had been, now floated a docile collection of machines already beginning to repair the damage they had caused. Human ships hovered nearby, Their crews probably already back on Earth enjoying their evening entertainment. Supreme Commander, Sarah addressed Vex Thor. I believe this would be a good opportunity to discuss updating your planetary defense systems. We have some basic models that should help prevent this sort of incident in the future. Vex Thor, still trying to process what he had witnessed, could only nod. Basic models, he managed to ask. Oh yes, Sarah replied cheerfully. Nothing too advanced. Just some quantum field generators, probability manipulation grids, the usual starter package. We can have training simulators set up for your military within a week, though you might want to cover elementary quantum mechanics first. As her image faded from his bridge, Vex Thor sank into his command chair. In the space of an hour, humans had casually solved a crisis that would have destroyed the Empire, and they considered their solution to be basic technology. Send a message to the Imperial Education Council, he ordered quietly. Tell them to accept all human offers of technical training. All of them. And he looked out at the now peaceful space where death had loomed just moments before. See if they can recommend any good quantum mechanics tutors. 1 year after the Void Swarm incident, the Great Hall of the Kraxan Imperial Palace hosted an event that would have been unimaginable months earlier. Supreme Commander Vex Thor, now serving as the Empire's Chief of Interstellar Relations, stood before a gathered crowd of Kraxan and human officials for the graduation ceremony of the first class of the Human Kraxan Scientific Exchange Program. The palace itself reflected the changes sweeping through Kraxan society. Quantum engineering modifications allowed the ancient building to exist in a state of constant artistic flux, its architecture flowing like liquid crystal, a graduation gift from the human engineering students to their Kraxan hosts. When we first encountered humanity, Vex Thor began his speech, his translator now capable of conveying subtle emotional nuances. We thought we were gods descending from the heavens to uplift a primitive species. He paused, mandibles clicking in what humans had learned was the Kraxan equivalent of self-deprecating laughter. Instead, we found ourselves to be children who had wandered into the laboratory of master scientists. Ambassador Elena Chen, sitting in the front row, smiled encouragingly. Next to her, Dr. Marcus Rivera was trying not to look too proud of his Kraxan graduate students, several of whom had already begun pioneering new applications of quantum physics, albeit with regular safety supervision from their human mentors. But humanity, Vex Thor continued, showed us something more valuable than technology. They showed us wisdom. When they could have humiliated us, they offered education. When they could have dominated us, they offered partnership. In orbit above the Kraxan homeworld, the newly commissioned research vessel, Mutual Curiosity, glided silently through space. Its crew was a mixture of humans and Kraxans, working together to explore the mysteries of the universe. The ship itself was a hybrid of both civilizations' technologies. Human quantum engineering married to Kraxan aesthetic design principles. Today, Vex Thor gestured to the graduating class. I see not just the future of the Kraxan Empire, but the beginning of a new era of galactic cooperation. Our graduates have learned not just human science, but human perspective. And in return, they have taught our human friends about our culture, our art, our way of seeing the universe. Cultural Attaché Zixtal, now serving as Dean of Xenocultural Studies at the new Kraxan Academy of Advanced Sciences, nodded in agreement. His latest research paper on the integration of Kraxan traditional art with human quantum engineering had become required reading in universities across both civilizations. We have learned, Vex Thor said, his voice carrying across the hall, that true strength lies not in conquest, but in collaboration. Not in domination, but in diversity. The humans have shown us that the universe is far more wonderful and strange than we ever imagined, and that there is always more to learn. In the back of the hall, a group of Kraxan children played with their human counterparts, their neural interfaces allowing them to share thoughts and experiences across species barriers. They were growing up in a world where the idea of interstellar conflict seemed as outdated as chemical rockets. And so, Vex Thor concluded, As we celebrate this graduation, we also celebrate a new beginning. The Kraxan Empire is transforming. No longer will we be conquerors. Instead, we will be explorers, researchers, and partners in humanity's grand journey of discovery. After the ceremony, Alina found herself in the palace gardens with Vexthor, watching the twin suns set through the quantum-enhanced atmosphere that now protected the Kraxan homeworld. "You know," she said, sipping her probability-optimized tea, "when you first arrived at Earth, I never imagined we'd end up here." Vexthor's scales shifted in patterns that indicated amusement. "When we first arrived, I never imagined humans would be teaching our children how to manipulate quantum reality as an art form." He gestured to where a young Kraxan student was using their newly learned skills to create a sculpture that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. "The galaxy is changing," Alina observed. "More species are achieving quantum awareness every day. They'll need guidance, understanding. And now they'll have both human wisdom and Kraxan experience to draw upon." Vexthor agreed. "Though perhaps we should wait until our students master basic quantum field theory before we start offering advice to others." They shared a laugh, human and Kraxan, friend and former foe, now partners in shaping the future of galactic civilization. In the quantum networks that connected both civilizations, AIs from both species were already collaborating on new projects, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The former Void Swarm, now reprogrammed and integrated into society, helped maintain vast networks of quantum communication relays that allowed instant connection across the galaxy. As night fell on the Kraxan homeworld, the stars seemed to shine brighter than ever before. But now, instead of representing territories to be conquered, they represented possibilities to be explored together. The Kraxan Empire had indeed suffered a defeat when they encountered humanity, but in losing their illusions of superiority, they had gained something far more valuable, a future brighter than anything they could have imagined in their days of conquest and isolation. And somewhere in the vast quantum networks, a human AI and a Kraxan computer system were already planning the next generation of improvements to the galaxy's probability-enhanced coffee machines.